Hello everyone, Rick here, and I've already done a video on my personal favourite Federation vessels, which honestly is outdated by now anyway, but I thought it about time to do another top 10, this time on my 10 picks for non-Federation vessels. I will be drawing from any licensed Star Trek works, but I promise it won't just be the entire catalogue of Romulan vessels from Star Trek Online. Well, not entirely, maybe one or two. Again, these are just personal preferences, not a breakdown of the best in order, just ones that stand out to me for one reason or another. That all said, let's start with number 10. The Voth city ship is just downright impressive. The Voth themselves are a civilization that has been spacefaring for at least 20 million years. Although honestly, with that time frame, you'd have thought that they'd have developed far beyond their level of tech as seen in Voyager, to be honest. Nevertheless, they are clearly one of the most advanced powers encountered by Starfleet, and this is most evident in their enormous-scale city ships that house millions of residents and dwarf even the largest Starfleet vessels. Effectively mobile space stations, they are also equipped with transwarp technology to make them exceedingly fast. On top of this, they have transporters capable of beaming an entire starship into its interior, and facing one in battle is basically untenable for the Intrepid class vessel. Smaller ships were equipped with interphasic cloaking devices that actually shift the object within the field slightly out of phase with the universe in order to completely shroud them. The weaknesses of their technology seem to be related more to the arrogance of the Voth, overestimating their superiority based on years of strict dogmatic belief in that dominant position in the Delta Quadrant. Number 9. A bit of a deep cut and one of only 2 Star Trek Online vessels on this list. Again, for the sake of variety, I'm deliberately reaching out beyond my initial gut reactions, but I really like the cathy ships. These are big, lumbering starships, about on par with Federation ships, but they are severely min-maxed, in that their vessels are slow-turning, so that their shielding is reinforced on the sides and rear, at the cost of lesser fore shields. So, attack them from the front then! Well, no, because the majority of their most destructive weaponry is forward-mounted, so in order to hit their weakest points, you have to place yourself right in the firing arc of dozens of cannons and torpedo launchers. On top of this, their unique colour scheme, glow and smooth domed look make them really stand out. Even their smallest, most compact ships have a defiant-like feel to them, of a little compact powerhouse, but refined and specialised for combat by a species who dedicated themselves wholly to generations of crusading with zeal. Number 8. The Andorian battlecruiser of the Imperial Guard. The Kumari is captained by everyone's favourite, oddly familiar blue boy Captain Shran. I won't lie, half of its appeal is the association with Shran. While really outclassed by my prior 2 picks, by both technology and time, it nonetheless was an impressive vessel for the 22nd century. The vessel served alongside the Enterprise in both the Xindi crisis, albeit with a bit of coercion, but then stood by them during the mounting Romulan issues. This continues in the Enterprise books, and the vessel even is given a bit of history within the show. It is the namesake of the first Andorian ice cutter to navigate their world, and the first Andorian starship of its class. This is great to hear, as it insinuates so much history and context to the universe. Every species in Trek, every strange, alien-sounding word, has a legacy and lineage behind it, and it was this addition of flavour that elevated the Kumari for me. Number 7. The Romulan Bird of Prey. It's a classic vessel, and again, most of the appeal of it is linked to its use and appearance in Balance of Terror, and the telling of the sub-hunt across the 2 crews. I don't think it's that imposing, although the raised nacelles do give it the swooping look. It's the fact that the Romulans painted a giant bird across its keel and hull. You have to admire how extra the Romulans went on that one. Hey, let's paint the symbol of our empire right across the entire lower decks. It will look wicked. But isn't this going to be a stealth ship that spends most of its time invisible around anyone who'd see it? Over time, however, the design grew on me in its simplicity and smooth form. It's just a few geometric shapes, but they work. Shout out too for the one that turns up in Star Trek Picard. Although no longer in the hands of Romulans, it is a modernised version with a lot more detail, but is still readily identifiable simply because of the basic look of the ship. Number 6. The Vulcan Trekcore class starship. Enterprise was a great series for getting to see some of the main species vessels due to the pre-Federation Starfleet setting. The Trekcore was one of the largest and most advanced Vulcan ships of the era, easily making Warp 7, and featured the fairly unique Vulcan warp ring design that became a hallmark of their ships. These vessels serve multiple roles, sometimes as science ships, but they were also the ones sent out by High Command when they needed stuff sorted, taking the role of a combat cruiser. What stood out about these ships, and Vulcan tech in general, was that they were the more familiar thing in many ways than the NX-01. The Vulcans were ahead of humans in their development by a few centuries, and this was encapsulated in the Trekcore class's abilities, a foreshadowing of the Federation's Starfleet. At number 5 we have the Mogai class, formerly the Valdor class. At least I think they've gone with the Mogai officially now. Either way, it is the second Romulan ship on this list, and one of the most modern we've seen, appearing in Star Trek Nemesis. While the Scimitar is definitely better in every way, the Mogai are sort of the new backbone of the Star Empire Navy, and not too shabby. Although, to be honest, despite getting to toy around with it in Star Trek Online, pretty much 100% of the reason they are on this list is how they look. They're just so low profile and glider-like with those graceful wings that would serve no purpose in space, but damn it, Jim, they look sweet. Something that will come up later on this list too, so spoilers, I guess. At 4th place is a bit of a deep cut, the Tammar class intel vessel from Star Trek Online. Again, this is one of only 2 from that game on my list, but I wanted something Cardassian from just how much they feature in the shows. Thing is, I'm not a huge fan of the Gaylord class ship, which literally was designed to resemble their own logo. The Tammar class ends up on this list not only for taking that design and adapting it into a stealth ship, but for what it represents. Briefly, in this setting, the Cardassians have been rebuilding after the scorching of their homeworld by the Dominion, and in the process discovered a singular talent for construction. They turn this not only to rebuilding their world, but then into the stars, once again becoming known as high-quality shipwrights, securing a trade deal with Ferenginar, and prospering from their new, less shooty oppressive pastimes. These vessels end up operating alongside even Starfleet on a few missions, and one even plays host to Garrick for a time, so that's always an added bonus. At 3rd place, and I'm not cheating, is the USS Dauntless, which actually wasn't a Federation ship. The vessel was alien-looking in its compact domed shape, but familiar enough to the Starfleet silhouette to be a believable experimental vessel. It of course came equipped with the quantum slipstream drive, a wholly new method of propulsion for Starfleet, and while the vessel was lost, its tech was recorded in detail and brought back to the Federation, along with many of Voyager's Delta Quadrant spoils. Again, it's a vessel that's here mostly for its looks, but beyond the superficial, when it was first presented in the show, I genuinely thought it to be a UFP ship, a believable next step in design for Starfleet, with its arrow-shaped primary hull promising to cut through space at speeds unattainable by regular warp drive. Plus the story attached to it wasn't that bad either, with a villain I found to be genuinely sympathetic and tragic. At number 2, I placed the iconic Klingon bird of prey. Now technically there have been several variations, from the Cylon-like ones from the 2250s to the even earlier 2150s versions, but I'm talking the film era and beyond. While the Nechva is bigger and more powerful, these ships just have so much character and seem to be at the centre of so many stories and endeavours. Gul Dukat stole one and went pirate for a time. Kirk stole one and went back in time. So apparently they're easy to hotwire. And Martok even picked the Rotaran as his flagship. So what if their size varies? Apocrypha says the Klingons just upscale the same frame and that they constantly refine, tweak and modify the Bird of Praise to keep them current for almost 100 years. What do they think this is, an Excelsior? From the cloaking ability to landing capability, it's just a fantastic vessel for running a wide array of missions for the Empire. It was also one of the first models I got, so that helps. Before number 1, however, let's look at some honourable mentions. For a start, I want to throw in the Phoenix. I like its utilitarian look, it's literally a rocket with warp nacelles, and it kick-started mankind's warp era. And technically it's not a Federation vessel, so it fits on this list. There then is the Daikina class warbird, as seen in Star Trek Picard, which shows up in the final episodes. I really like the design, but apart from an appearance in ST Online, we have no canon reference for its capabilities, commonality, or anything really beyond how it looks. And finally, I'm going to include the Species 8472 Bioship here too for its sheer wow factor, firepower and introduction alongside 8472. Its organic synthetic style and ability to destroy a Borg cube make it a notable addition. And at number 1 is the Duridex class. This is my favourite vessel of non-Starfleet design for several reasons. Firstly, it was the Romulan vessel for a new era, a powerhouse to rival the Galaxy class in scale and capability, but it came with a better cloaking device. The curved hull is designed to resemble the Romulan heraldry even more than their Bird of Praise, and it just has this menacing profile down to the sharp beak. On top of this, there's a myriad of little touches, like the nacelles, still maintaining line of sight, and while no longer exactly a design requirement for warp, it's still a nice touch, and the shape ends up retroactively reminding me of even their earlier Vulcan vessels. The faint Aztecing of the hull is in such a way to resemble feathers. Then there's the fact that in canon it's the only Romulan vessel to run off a compressed and artificial singularity core, which I always found to be the Romulans just being contrarian out of principle, because they do have regular matter antimatter warp drives too. This is just all round my favourite alien ship in Trek, maybe just generally my favourite ship. So, how does my list stack up? I mean, there are probably too many Romulan ships on it, right? And these aren't exactly the fastest, most powerful ships, even if you were to take them in their own contemporary eras. These are just the ones that stand out for either one reason or a culmination, making them something special. I just like them. Let me know how your list differs, or something you have a soft spot for, even if it does not get that much attention. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, I've been Rick. Goodbye.